This week in games, Meta lays off more game developers, PlayStation acquires Firewalk Studios while raising the prices of PC games, and how successful was Hi-Fi Rush? This is the Two Penny Gamescast. What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Gamescast. I'm your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
Hi, how are you all doing today?
So much energy. I love it. No, Connor, actually, I don't love it with your little monotone self, you know?
You just said I was doing good.
I know, but I lied. I lied to you straight to your face on the internet, Connor.
I don't know why you would ever think to do that. I never lie. Certainly never do.
Connor, how are you doing this week, my friend?
I hit a woman with my car.
No, wait, hold on. Don't phrase it like that.
While she was in her car.
You hit a different car. You backed into a car.
I did. In my defense, it was not my fault. That's the only thing I'll say. I won't go into specifics, but trust me, it was not my fault.
Okay.
You hear that a lot, but it was not my fault.
I
also got stung by a bee.
So you poor boy. I just realized
it itches.
My green is showing, Connor.
Ooh.
He's envious.
Green does
Phil from the chat. Phil, we're about to be here to record the piggy bank with us a little later. Ladies and gentlemen, but that's not the show you're listening to right now. What you're listening to right now is the Two Penny Gamescast, in which every week me and Connor sit down and we give you the new news you need to know about concerning the video game industry. We each come to you with two topics, two pennies, if you will, and we give you our 2 cents, on them.
Fail.
I know. It was my little carbonated bubbly water. I haven't had one in a couple of days, so there we go. We each come to you two topics, 2 pennies, give you our 2 cents on them. You can catch us live every Sunday at about 4 p.m. Central Time, twitch.tv/2pennygames, in order to watch the show live, alongside all of our recordings, such as our reviews and our Piggy Bank podcast, which is hosted by Young Phil, who we heard just moments ago. And our Minecraft Legends review, which will be at the end of this episode, or it's already up on the YouTube channel where this also exists, youtube.com/@2pennygames, and mainstream podcast services of your choice. You can also catch us over at TikTok, I guess tiktok.com/2pennygames. I think that's how that works. Or, just look us up on the app or whatever. Hit us a follow over there, where we get extended videos as opposed to the YouTube shorts, which only limit us to a minute long. So if you want some extended, condensed, well-edited reviews and topic discussions and fun little mini games from the piggy bank, head over to TikTok. Hit us a follow over there, or just subscribe to the YouTube channel, in which a shorter, even more condensed version of that will go live. Connor, after that train wreck of an intro, let's go ahead and drop some sense on him. Let's jump into our first topic of the day. Your first penny. Go ahead, take it away, my friend.
No, the worst part is I didn't order it the way that I'm supposed to order it. So I was like, he's gonna say the first one. It was I believe it involved Facebook. It was. I was right.
There it is.
So if I had done it without doing anything beforehand, I would have been right, just so everyone knows. This is an article from VGC. It stands for Video Game Chronicle. Latest round of Meta layoffs hits ready at dawn and Downpour Interactive. This is from Tom Ivan. Having cut 11,000 employees, or 13% of its workforce, in late 2022, last month, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced plans to axe a further 10,000 jobs by May. After the latest rounds of cuts started on Wednesday, employees from some of the company's VR game development studios took to social media to say they've been laid off or that colleagues had been. Quote, one-third of the studio was laid off today, including the studio head, claimed Thomas Griebel, a senior engine and graphics programmer at Lone Echo developer Ready at Dawn, which Facebook acquired in 2020. I just got laid off by Meta and no longer work on Onward, former Downpour Interactive developer Michael Saros tweeted. Quote, today is the toughest day in my career. Onward producer Casper Nahujasen wrote, added in a follow-up tweet. I've lost a lot of colleagues and friends today. Meta recently claimed to have sold almost 20 million Quest VR headsets since the platform launched in 2019. Mark Rabkin, Meta's vice president for VR, shared the figure with employees during a product roadmap presentation that was leaked to The Verge. According to the presentation, Meta Quest 3 headset will launch this year and will be 2 times thinner, at least twice as powerful, and costs slightly more than the $400 Quest 2. Well, I can't say exactly that I'm surprised at this, because Meta notoriously has been doing bad for a while now. Most people just also don't understand what the point of it is, and all of the things attached to it clearly aren't doing so well. Because now we have another bunch of layoffs, more so than we already had, which unfortunately was kind of foreseeable. One thing that really upsets me about this story was that some of these studios were acquired by Facebook, and now they failed, and now they're laying off a bunch of workers. This was it's easy to look at these things after they happen and say that it was a stupid idea to begin with, and you should never have started it. That's not always the case, but this is one of those situations where everyone was kind of harsh on Meta and the whole rebranding effort as well. And now we're seeing kind of the effects of that, and people wanting to get into the gaming market when they clearly don't have the capabilities to do so.
Well, and it's also just the problems with acquisitions by these giant corporations. And you're right, like Facebook. I mean, Facebook is a tech giant, so they know what they're doing on their tech side. But I think it's sort of the management issue and the profit-driven end of it all that sort of makes this all very complicated. But whenever anything gets acquired, sort of a ticking time clock starts on. Big changes that are bound to happen with any type of acquisition. And usually it just results in the changing of a studio head, maybe just a rebrand or a new logo or something like that. But also, and way too often in the video game industry, it also equates to layoffs, mass layoffs, and often studio closures. And so this is just another example of that, where Ready Dawn got acquired last year, I believe. Is that what it was?
Let me see.
And then, they faced some layoffs, and then now they're facing even more, as is the trend right now, is we're, in a recession, on the brink of recession. I don't know. The experts can't seem to decide where we are economically right now. And the seeming never-ending sort of like lean back from the post-pandemic effects on the tech industry, where there was a giant boom, and then now we're seeing profits recede and pull back, which, was to be expected because, people started going back to work and being social again and doing all of that. So there's just, forever just constant layoffs in that sense. But, it really is so unfortunate to see so many people lose so many jobs, and especially from a studio with talent. Ready Dawn is a talented studio, even though they've been working on games that don't have any interest for me personally. But they've definitely been acquired in 2020 is what the article says here. So it's weird because, especially in the virtual reality market right now, we're just looking at it's a vertical of the industry that is quasi-established. Like, it's mostly there. It's just we're looking for an actual killer game, and we've gotten a couple of dope ones. But it's just a matter of not everybody's into it. So we're not quite sure if we're ready to really jump into this and treat it like AAA giant studios, or if that's a mistake right now. And so there's a lot of push and pull with that, especially in the hiring process. So really, really unfortunate that this happened again. And, heart goes out to all of those affected, but it's just an unfortunate space where we are in with the how volatile the industry is with job security.
Yeah. And just to enhance this a little bit more, Downpour was acquired in 2021 around April. So these games didn't really stay under the Meta. I hate Meta. I hate that's a stupid name. I hate everything that seemed to join under that brand is now suffering as a result of being associated with it, which I find to be very
Oculus,
tragic.
That was good.
It was just so simple then. Just you if you wanted to have VR headsets, you can just put on your Oculus and watch porn, play video games. And
What?
then you would
Connor, no!
My
I don't have
man.
I don't have a VR, so I don't know what. I'm not saying I do that. I'm just saying other people do. And they definitely
Other people do, Connor. Other people definitely do.
Other people do, and then their friends come over to their apartment, and then
I
don't know.
I don't know
frankly,
what. I
I
don't know
frankly
what's
don't know what
happening.
Phil is talking about some very strange things, and I
Oh,
quite don't
Lord.
understand the words that are coming out of his mouth, and I'm going to
All
ignore them.
right, we're going off the
Very
rails
strange.
here, ladies and gentlemen. Now, moving on
You
to our
can't talk
second.
about You can't talk about VR without it coming into your mind.
Second
No one
topic
will
of the
deny
day,
that.
Connor, for my first penny. Firewalk Studios has been acquired by PlayStation. We are pulling straight from the PlayStation blog, welcoming Firewalk Studios to the PlayStation Studios family from Herman Holst. I'm excited to announce that we've expanded our relationship with Firewalk Studios and are thrilled to welcome them to PlayStation Studios. Firewalk is home to a remarkably talented team of creatives who have launched some of gaming's most celebrated experience, and they're already hard at work on their first original AAA multiplayer game for PlayStation. Since announcing our publishing partnership with Probably Monsters and Firewalk in 2021, we continue to be impressed by the team's ambition to build a modern multiplayer game that connects players in new and innovative ways. The studio shares our passion for creating inspiring worlds grounded in exceptional gameplay, and we want to continue to invest in their mission. We're excited for Firewalk to bring their technical and creative expertise to PlayStation Studios to help grow our live service operation and deliver something truly special for gamers. And then from studio head Tony Hsu and Ryan Ellis, every once in a while you get to have an adventure. Over 5 years ago, we jumped at the chance to set up a new studio and build a new IP from the ground up. Recalling our own favorite times with games, we founded Firewalk Studios around the idea of delivering memorable moments. Those amazing had-to-be-there times shared with other people. Our goal is to deliver those shared moments of joy to players around the world. Building a new studio at scale has been an incredibly exhilarating and relentlessly daunting task. Fortunately, we've been supported by great partners throughout. Probably Monsters helped turbocharge us in setting up the studio, and Sony has been supporting our project and our creative vision from the beginning. We've assembled some of the most inspired talent in the industry to deliver awe-inspiring new worlds and experiences filled with great core gameplay. The excitement of building something new for players has thoroughly energized the team and our partners, and we've been playtesting every day. Today, we're taking the next natural step and joining PlayStation Studios. We've worked closely with Herman and the very talented team at PlayStation for years, helping to make our new game even better. To join PlayStation Studios is to formally become part of a family that has produced many of the most storied games of our age, and we are honored. We want to thank everyone who supported us along the way and those looking forward to our future. It's been an incredible journey so far, and we can't wait for the next chapter in this adventure. So, Connor, another one acquired by PlayStation, another Infinity Stone put into the gauntlet. I have the never-ending sort of cold war between Sony and Xbox, acquiring studio after studio after studio. PlayStation doing it, bit piece, little chunk at a time, not so much, whole scale with entire publishers worth of developers like Xbox has done for the last couple of years. This time, Firewalk Studios clearly to, sort of solidify the multiplayer branch that I think they very clearly want to dive down into in the second half of the generation here. And, sort of build up alongside Bungie, and what was the other studio that they acquired, I think, last year? Haven Studios, I believe.
That's yeah.
And, I mean, cool. Nice. I'm interested to see what happens, and I'm interested to see what Firewalk presents. I'm curious as to what brand of multiplayer game we're getting here. I think it's interesting. They do mention, where was it the in the blog post? They mention, like, what was it? Like, not game, like live service. They mentioned live service operations and deliver something truly special for games. And how Firewalk will help them to bring that. But they also say that they're working on a AAA multiplayer game, not a AAA live service game, or anything of that sense. So I'm curious as to if we're just going to get sort of a traditional multiplayer game with maybe a couple of updates or whatever going along the way, a couple of big expansions or something, or if this will be some sort of live service game. Is there really a difference anymore? Who knows? We continue to have a conversation even on this podcast of like, I don't know, what is a live service game? And what is a successful live service game? Or what is just a successful multiplayer game in this day and age where, you look at things like Knockout City, which was never really planned to be a huge live service game, but, found enough success to go on for a couple of updates. And then eventually they were like, all right, we're done. We're moving on. And you see, things like Rumbleverse or Outriders, continue in their own lanes and find different levels of success depending upon, what their goals were. And what those were, we're not 100% sure. But Connor, I'm curious as to your perspective on PlayStation and their multiplayer outing that they are quietly building here in the background.
To be quite honest, there's not much to really say about it because Firewalk, it's been around for a little while now, but we don't know. We haven't seen the game in action. We don't know the title of the game that they made, and they have no other games they've released. So really, the only thing you can say about this is that PlayStation has a good history of having games on their consoles and having studios that make games people like, that are just good. So they have to be pretty confident to be acquiring this as early as they did, without them having anything to show for it as far as actual, products being released. But I trust that the game that's being made is quality enough to warrant this purchase and to warrant so much support from PlayStation. So I'm really just hopeful that the multiplayer game itself isn't live service. I know obviously they didn't exactly say that it was, and I feel like certain live service games just shouldn't be, and so they get made and then they don't end up performing all that well. Avengers is something that I always think of when I think of live service games that just didn't have the proper roadmap. They didn't have the proper content to keep the game viable. And that's a hard thing to do with live service games. So to see them just possibly focusing on a multiplayer game only, something like akin to Titanfall, just to pull something out, I'd like to just jump and do it and play it and not have a high level of, dedication to it, to stay through multiple events, to get all the cosmetics or weapons or whatever it is they decide to do with, the brand of multiplayer game they're making. Can't really say much about it myself. I can't say I'm super excited, but
yeah,
I'm confident that it'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just we're just waiting and seeing until all of these acquisitions and all of these like small games that are in development start showing their face. We assume this summer during the showcase, which is reported to be in late May, early June, somewhere around there. So we'll see. But I mean, this is just sort of a repeated conversation that we've had a couple of times where I'm going to push back a little bit on you with the live service thing. They can work. It just has to be, it's really hard, and it has to be done by the right studio with the right game plan, and it has to be the game plan from the beginning. And it needs to expand in a way that the team can keep up with and, have a continuous cycle of content go through. And, you mentioned, Titanfall, which predates really the era of a live service game. But Respawn, that same developer, took that gunplay, essentially, because Apex Legends and Titanfall essentially have the same gunplay. They're similar, they're a little different, but they're essentially the same, and pivoted into Apex Legends, and they've been a runaway success ever since then. So to me, when I hear PlayStation is working on a multiplayer branch, I get interested in that because they've had a couple of like multiplayer add-ons to a couple of games. Naughty Dog had, I think, quite successful multiplayer modes, specifically with The Last of Us with their factions mode, was quite successful, and I could easily see how that could turn into a live service model of some kind. But when you think of PlayStation Studios, they are laser focused on giving you quality. AAA, best of the best, upper echelon. That's all they want associated with their brand. That's why, things that don't quite meet the bar, Days Gone, for example, just get like shoved under the rug, and that developer gets beaten into a corner and told to shut up and stop poking your head out. And so, with these multiplayer outings, I think they know they're taking a big step because they know that they are known, one, for the quality, like I mentioned, but two, they're known for the single player action adventure type games for the most part. And when they do this, they have to do it right. And this, I think, is more of their wheelhouse than in terms of like developing games and working with their studios and having crosstalk between studios to figure out how things work. So I think this, Haven, Bungie, we've established, okay, we've got some studios now that have some talent and some pedigree, some veteran developers under our belt. Now let's work together to build something that's going to work. And PlayStation wants it to work. They want players, in their ecosystem all the time. They want, some way to involve microtransactions or some type of, battle pass or something to sort of give them a constant drip feed of monetization. But in order to do that, they got to come with the goods, and it's a competitive market. Bungie with Destiny 2, Respawn with Apex Legends, Fortnite being the golden child, of course. So it's really just a matter of like, man, you really got to have your ducks in a row. You got to know what you're doing, and you got to be planning for it. And I think PlayStation has been planning for it. Now it's just a matter of seeing if they can execute on it.
Well, now's their time to do it since they're starting from scratch and clearly trying to get into the more multiplayer aspect of gaming since single player has been their primary focus. And they definitely get outplayed by places like PC, and even though PlayStation obviously does good on the online online format, it's not for PlayStation known games. It's for multi-platform games. So now's their chance to break into that market and start making a little bit more extra green than they already are.
Connor, you mentioned PC, which is a perfect segue into our next topic of the day, your second penny. Let's go ahead and jump over to IGN, and you can go ahead and take it from here, my big man.
Well, this is an article from IGN, always reliable. Sony is quietly raising prices on its games on Steam in certain regions. This is from Christina Alexander. While inflation has been cooling down in a lot of places, Sony has quietly raised PlayStation game prices on Steam in select regions. Reset Era user Chairman Chuck spotted the price increases for PS4 and PS5 on Steam DB affecting several regions, including Argentina, Canada, Chile, China, Colombia, Japan, and South Korea. The games that have been affected by inflated prices include Sackboy, Returnal, oh, my thing refreshed all of a sudden, which was ported over to PC back in February, Marvel Spider-Man Remastered, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, Horizon Zero Dawn, Days Gone, and God of War 2018. According to PlayStation Lifestyle, who confirmed the findings, the aforementioned games experienced price jumps on Steam between April 14th and April 19th. However, how much they cost now depends on the year they were released in. For example, Returnal may carry a higher price tag since it came out in 2021, while Horizon Zero Dawn may be generously cheaper given that it was released in 2017. If you live in any of the following countries, here are the prices you will expect to see when you are looking for your favorite PlayStation games on the Steam store. I'm going to go through just a couple of these real quickly. Argentina, from 4,199 to 5,999 pesos to 8,499 to 9,999 pesos. You know what? There's so many different currencies here that probably not many people are familiar on.
It's a lot. It's a lot. But the listed countries affected: Argentina, Canada, Chile, China, Colombia, Japan, and South Korea. And the way that they're increased doesn't really seem to make any sense because some of them are, simple 10 to quick $20 increase, whatever. Some of them double in price, like how you just listed in Argentina going from 4,199 to 8,499. That's a double. Why? I don't know. And PlayStation doesn't seem to tell us why. And IGN later states in the article that they haven't officially acknowledged the price jump or made any type of statement about it. So this is weird. And I don't quite know why it's happening. why they constantly seem to be increasing prices for everywhere but the United States. So I don't know. This is very, very strange move for PlayStation, especially on the PC front, where they so desperately want to start gaining traction and, you know, making splashes here to punish your PC players like this. It's just strange.
Effect.
It's just strange, right? Like, why do this? And to not like have an official statement ready for it is even weirder. Of like, hey man, yeah, we got to do it for price increases and player counts, and the bean counters decided that these countries have to raise prices at this rate or something. Why? And you're the only ones doing it. On top of the fact, sales are down this year for everyone. PC, Xbox, Switch, everything. Except for guess who, Connor? Ding, ding, ding. PlayStation. PlayStation are the only ones in the industry whose sales are up, both in software and in hardware. So what gives? Why? Why are we doing this?
I think this is an echo that we're finally hearing of what the core reason is for the price increases in general, which is greed. It effectively is. Wages haven't gone up. The video game industry has just made more and more money. We know it makes tons of money. We know it makes more than movies do, which is one of the other biggest pieces of entertainment out there. So it's not hurting. It's doing good, and yet we had these price increases a little while ago across the entire board, all throughout the industry, and now PlayStation's doing it again. It really makes me worried when I hear these acquisitions and these growing monopolies of Sony and Microsoft, because it leads me to think, well, once they gain enough control over the marketplace, they're going to start abusing the power that they hold to do prices however they feel like it, just to get a little bit more money. And once again, the changes they bring up just don't really make sense when you're making money hand over foot, even every single year. More and more games top their last, God of War, the new one, Ragnarok, made tons more money than 2018 did when it first came out. There's no real, good reason for why they've increased the game prices in recent years, besides greed, besides them just wanting more money. And the fact that they're trying to just ignore this and hope no one really takes, notice of it, probably is a good reason just to explain why they haven't said anything on this. It's because they feel like, oh, well, these people in these countries have to play our games on Steam, so, we're just going to increase the prices and not really give them an option, because you either pay the money that we're, making you pay, or you don't get to play the game because you don't have a PlayStation. It's an ultimatum that makes sense when your main profit is to squeeze as much money out of your consumers as possible. And I think that goes a long way to describing why they've done this.
It just feels like shooting yourself in the foot. Like,
yeah,
you are not established in the PC space, PlayStation, so there's just really no need for this. Like, if anything, maybe you should discount these games because they're kind of old. Like, there's nothing really that new on PC. Is Horizon Forbidden West on PC yet? I don't even know if it is. I don't think it is. But like, Returnal is a couple years old at this point. Spider-Man is multiple years old at this point. God of War, old. Like, for what reason would I want, as a PC gamer, to play this game? And especially when they don't even come out working all the time. You look at The Last of Us Part 1, its PC port is a mess. It's just glitches all over the place and problems galore and save files getting corrupted. Why would I, as a gamer, want to subject myself to that? To buy a PlayStation? These games didn't attract me to buy a PlayStation when they came out. Why would they attract me to buy a PlayStation now? I just think it's just a weird way of punishing players, and I don't want to jump to, the only motivation was greed, but from the outside consumer perspective, it's hard to see it as anything else but greed. So I think this is a bad move by PlayStation, and optically, I just don't. I don't think they could find a way to spin it, so they just didn't say anything about it. And like, I mean, admittedly, like, some of these markets are not your biggest markets, like Argentina or Chile or South Korea. Like, I don't think they're like itching to play God of War. Like, it just doesn't really seem like their cup of tea from what you typically see from those markets. But Canada and Japan, Like, why? But, like, at the same time, why would you do this? Like, this really doesn't seem like you're going to get any more profit out of it. It seems like you're just going to lose profit from this, especially when, you know, you look at Argentina and their prices doubled. What?
Yeah. And in Japan, we covered this pretty recently. They have a lockdown on that country. PlayStation does. Sony does. Microsoft admitted that, what was the number? 96% of,
it's huge.
of gamers there play
96,
PlayStation.
97, something like that.
Yeah, something ridiculously high number. I mean, that's a market where you have a dedicated fan base, and that you're going to increase prices again after you already have been. A part of this, the way it's been done and who's been affected by this, almost makes me think this was an accident on some level somewhere, and they're so embarrassed.
Somebody clicked the wrong number and hit enter.
Yeah, right. It's like, oh, I didn't mean to. Maybe some disgruntled employee. Who knows? But maybe we'll see them say something about this, or maybe they'll just be quiet. We have to wait and see on
When I
that front.
scheduled the podcast for the wrong day, I'm like, oh, that was supposed to come out today. Oops.
Oh well. But I hope they change this. I really do. It doesn't affect me, but that doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the fact it's stupid. It doesn't change the fact it's greedy.
Yeah, man. And like on top of that, like, yeah, sure. PlayStation makes probably the best games in the industry right now. They pay the money to have the biggest studios to attract the most talent, yada yada yada. But when you have deals just as, if not more competitive, especially in the PC market, like Game Pass, if your premier titles didn't attract me to buy a PlayStation to go play them, putting them on PC, yeah, that's cool. I now get to play these games. But when you jack up the price like this so much, honestly, I'm just gonna get a Game Pass and keep playing the games I've been playing, or have free access to all these games, quote unquote free access to these games that have been keeping me more than satisfied for years at this point. So yeah, I just don't know what your plan is with this PlayStation. But moving on, Connor, to our final topic of the day, my second penny. Let's go ahead and have a little conversation about Hi-Fi Rush. Speaking of Xbox and Xbox Game Pass, Hi-Fi Rush found itself in a little bit of a not a hot seat, but just a topic of conversation over the last couple of days. So I grabbed a article from Games Radar by Jordan Gerblick. The title of the article is Xbox says Hi-Fi Rush was a success, quote, in all key measurements amid rumors of poor sales. Following rumors that Tango Gameworks' Hi-Fi Rush didn't meet sales expectations, Xbox marketing VP Aaron Greenberg is defending the, quote, breakout hit as a success by all metrics. It's worth noting up front that this whole kerfuffle was caused by a passing comment made during a recent episode of Jeff Grubb's Game Mess podcast, and one Grubb himself has since softened in follow-up tweets. See, Grubb mentioned during the podcast that he had heard Hi-Fi Rush, quote, didn't make the money it needed to make, and naturally that spurred numerous reports from publications suggesting the game was a financial failure. After Grubb's comments began circulating online, Greenberg issued a brief statement to Twitter to clarify Xbox's position on Hi-Fi Rush. Xbox boss Phil Spencer retweeted Greenberg's statement, but added no comment of his own. Quote, Hi-Fi Rush was a breakout hit for us and our players in all key measurements and expectations. We couldn't be happier with what the team at Tango Gameworks delivered with this surprise release. Of course, as Grubb would later point out, it's extremely difficult to gauge a company's satisfaction with its own product when you don't know what the metrics that the company is using. Is it launch sales, total sales to date, Game Pass engagement? It's also important to consider that Hi-Fi Rush was a wild card, a comedic action rhythm game from a studio best known for The Evil Within and Ghostwire Tokyo, so its success isn't going to be judged in the same way that a guaranteed juggernaut like Starfield will be. Quote, I shouldn't have said needed on the podcast, Grubb added, quote, I don't know what it needed to do. The conversation we were having was about generating revenue, and the game didn't hit that target. But no matter what, HFR, Hi-Fi Rush, isn't a flop, and Tango's future is bright. And Connor, I'm going to leave it there and take the conversation into our own routes and say, yeah, never did I ever think Hi-Fi Rush was going to be a financial success. The point of that game, I think, was to sort of quasi-rebrand Tango Gameworks as a studio with some punch in it, which I think it did successfully. I think it was to excite players about Xbox games, which have been lacking for quite a while, which I think it did. I think Xbox gamers were really excited about Hi-Fi Rush. And I think it was meant to sort of get a critical conversation talking about Xbox game studios, as opposed to do gangbuster numbers. But let's be honest. What kind of gangbust numbers are we expecting from Hi-Fi Rush, which is a $30, $40 game, short action rhythm platformer game, with a cartoon art style? Like, this game was never going to do God of War numbers. It wasn't going to do Spider-Man numbers. It couldn't have. And on top of that, it was a surprise release, a day one release. We didn't know about it, and then it was out, you know?
Yeah, I know.
Now, was that debatably the right move? Maybe not. But what was the goal with the game? I don't know if the goal was to generate revenue, because it seems like the game was kind of like, you know, being done in the background, like it wasn't their main thing. A lot of them were focused on Ghostwire Tokyo, which I think they also knew wasn't going to be superb. So, you know, it was fine that this game was, you know, being built, you know, on the side, and nobody was batting an eye at that. But I think it was a point of saying, hey, we have been acquired by Xbox. We have made some pretty well-received games with Evil Within and Evil Within 2. Ghostwire Tokyo, okay, some people liked it, some people didn't care for it. I didn't personally play it, so I have no idea. But, you know, it wasn't critically received super well. It was in the spotlight for a bunch of, you know, directors leaving and going back, and it seemed like development on that game was troubled. I think this is Hi-Fi Rush. The point of that game was to show that, hey, Tango Gameworks isn't really a studio you should sleep on. Like, they've got talent there. We've always known they had talent there, but here it's like, punch you in the face, here you go, boom, talent. And to sort of solidify, and I'm sure Xbox just wanted to solidify a game as a great game that everybody can play, as opposed to something like a Pentiment, where, like, yeah, people who played it really liked it, but who's going to play that game? You know what I mean? This one is a little more accessible, a little more brand friendly, a little more market friendly. So let's put it out. It didn't cost. I assume it didn't cost very much to make.
As far as video games are concerned.
Exactly. And it probably just did what it needed to do in terms of engagement and reception. But where are you at with this story?
I mean, I agree. It's not exactly the big money maker. It's obviously a game that was expected to do, you know, maybe bring in some revenue, be a fun little game. But clearly it went far beyond what they expected it to, because there was just a bunch of, you know, not outcry, a bunch of support for the game when it first came out. I remember everyone was like, what is this game? Oh my God, it looks amazing. And then people played it, and it was amazing. I can attest to that. Great game. But, see, the thing I feel when reading this story is that it didn't make those sales, regardless of whether that was the point or not. And this is really just damage control after the fact. Like, he may have said something he wasn't supposed to, and then they went, oh, we can't just be talking about how our games aren't.
Well, it was Jeff Grubb, so, like, you know, he was just doing his reporter thing and talking on a podcast like you and I, so, you know.
That's true. Yeah, and so it's, you know, I don't think there's much to say other than the fact that it made more money than it should have, well, than it was, you know, planned on making, because of the eyes it just randomly got on it, because of the style of game that it was, bringing people back to, like, the 2000s cartoons where things are a little bit wacky. They have that kind of, you know, fun art style. And beyond that, I mean, well, you pointed out something good, that they wanted to rebrand Tango Gameworks, since that's a game company that obviously makes good stuff. People who played Evil Within 2 really, really liked it, but the first game didn't garner that much attention to it. Ghostwire Tokyo didn't garner that much attention to it. So I think it's safe to say that this kind of game, with the way that it was presented, being this fun, snappy, all ages can play it type game, seems like they could have been doing it for a rebranding attempt to try and get more eyes on Tango Gameworks as a serious player. And I think it successfully did so on that part, but whether that was actually their goal or all of this is just completely unintentional, and it was just supposed to be this small game that was just thrown out there because they could make it, yeah, I can't really say, because I don't think these people really, a lot of these business people don't think in terms of how it's going to rebrand stuff or how it's going to revitalize the kind of like action adventure game that it was supposed to be. I think it's really just them after the fact that it did good, saying, "Oh, well, there's all it hit all the key measurements." Very vague, they don't go into specifics of what that means. So it makes me think that this is just kind of upping the game after it did well, because you now see, oh, well, since obviously people like this game, if we push it more and talk about it more, people can get excited for Tango Gameworks' future games or another Hi-Fi Rush game in the future, which inevitably seems to be coming.
Well, and then also like Xbox has been, I think this year specifically, there was news of, I've forgotten his name, the 343 guy who left this last week.
Frank O'Connor.
Frank O'Connor. Thank you, Phil, from the chat. Frank O'Connor leaving 343 this last week, that caused a lot of conversation of like, oh man, Halo's in trouble, 343's in trouble. And how many times has that narrative gone around over the last couple of years? How many times have we seen, man, Xbox, where are the games? You guys just talk and talk and talk and acquire studios, but where's the output? And I think this is an example of like, we put something out, it worked in the measurements that mattered to us. Like, we didn't need Hi-Fi Rush to be a blockbuster game. It wasn't supposed to, but it was supposed to give you output. It was supposed to give you a great game that when you look at the Xbox catalog, go, what has Xbox done for me lately? Oh, they've done this. This is great.
One thing I know
I
for
think
sure
is what Xbox cares about more, especially because Game Pass, with their drip feed of monetization, is the best deal in gaming right now, and I think it's hugely successful for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be pumping so much into it right now. You look at on the other side of the fence with PlayStation. PlayStation Now didn't really do anything for us, and did you really see PlayStation making moves with PlayStation Now or pushing players to subscribe to PlayStation Now? Not really. Like, you saw a couple of things, cool things would be added and so forth. They're doing a better job now with the revamped PS Plus than they did in the past. But it's still, like, how often do you look at that and go, oh, I need to go subscribe to PlayStation Plus? They're making a more and more of a better argument for it, but how often do you go, like, and this all depends on how the next PlayStation showcase will be. But I've never seen a PlayStation talking head go, and all of this is coming to PlayStation Plus or something like that. Like, I've never seen it happen. Whereas Phil Spencer is out there all the time. Granted, one, he's a marketing mastermind, and he really knows his gamers and how to communicate with the gamers very well. That's what he excels at. But he's constantly pushing Game Pass, constantly pushing the Xbox platform, not so much the Xbox system. So when you say, oh, Hi-Fi Rush didn't sell that much, okay, but we don't know what its engagement on Game Pass was. I bet you a lot. All three of us, me, you, Connor, and Phil, all played Hi-Fi Rush through Game Pass, which is what they wanted, So now they have our $10 a month. That's going to go a lot further than the one-time $40 purchase of Hi-Fi Rush. You know what I'm saying?
You would think, but once again, Games Pass does have a bunch of stuff on it, so those metrics really become hard to tell. They do feel with in terms of sales particularly. But I don't know. It's kind of hard to know what these masterminds are thinking. What is their brain process going through? I mean,
the big problem is we just don't have all the information. And we shouldn't have all the information. That's for them to use and decide and do what they need to do on the back end. We don't need to see that. Sure, we'd like it as a talking point to just be able to communicate about it, but in terms of like the Twitter sphere debate of console wars or whatever ridiculous immature conversation you want to have about it, I think Hi-Fi Rush has exceeded any type of like, oh, it wasn't good for XYZ reasons that you could imagine, but that's just me.
And you're right about everything, so that must be it.
No. I mean, yes, but no. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You couldn't even be humble, huh?
Why, man? When you're just fucking big pimping like me,
And
you know,
you're
and you're just
doubling
winning all the
down.
time, you know.
God, what a jerk off this guy is.
I know, man. Hey, man. Listen, when you got the sauce like that, Connor, it took us 2.5 years to reach 100 subscribers on YouTube.com/@2pennygames. I mean, can you think of a bigger success story than us?
Well, there is a YouTuber by the name of Tasting History with Max Miller who went up pretty quickly. So I think that's a pretty
sounds
good
like
success
sounds
story.
like a chub. Sounds like a
Guy
punk.
who makes
sounds
well.
sounds like a flash in the pan. You know what I mean?
Then what about the sausage guy? The YouTube, I can't remember.
Sausage
You know
Party,
about
the movie with Seth
shut
Rogen. You know,
Yeah,
It's a funny movie. You know,
tumor that was put on screen. Yeah, that movie.
the tumor.
I love the giant food orgy at the end.
I love it. It was so
Ladies
funny.
and gentlemen, that is it for the news segment of the 2 Penny Gamescast. Thank you so much for watching and listening. But don't go anywhere because we're about to bring Phil in here, as you can tell, to help us review Minecraft Legends. So stick around with that. Remember, you can watch us live over at twitch.tv/2pennygames. And Twitch audience, don't go anywhere. I see Blanca 811 in the chat.
It's La Flama Blanca.
La Flama Blanca. Yeah, Phil, you know this chat, this Twitch chatter quite often because Phil also goes live. I forgot to say it at the beginning. Twitch.tv/2pennygames every Tuesday at 2 p.m. where he plays video games live for us. And then I try and jump in there with every new game release. So please come back about Thursday around 11 p.m. Central Time. And I will go live with some Jedi Survivor. Until next time, have a great time. And Phil, get on in here.
I'm gonna say bye.
What's poppin', players? Welcome back to a 2 Penny Games review. This time for Minecraft Legends. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good gaming bud. Say hello to the people, Phil Shoemaker.
Hey, what's going on? New
Hello,
camera,
hello.
new me.
New camera, new you. Phil, this is actually the first piece of content that's hitting the channel with your new camera.
That's right. You can see me. I don't look like a blurry fucking mess. I'm just ugly.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we have been playing some Minecraft Legends throughout the week. Admittedly, for me, not nearly as much as I wish I had been able to, but, you know, we do what we can here. So, so we have all of our cards out on the table. I've put about maybe 10 hours close to into the campaign, and then me and Phil played one match of PvP 1v1 against each other.
God, I really want to play more though.
Yeah, I do want to play more though as well. So I'll go ahead and just start with my general impressions and opinions of the game. Minecraft Legends, I think, is a really good kids game. It's a nice baby's first RTS. However, I do think its campaign just kind of falls short in terms of variety, in terms of challenging the player, and in terms of escalating the level of difficulty and really training you to use all of your resources to your full advantage. At some point, it just kind of becomes really repetitive of build up a certain number of troops, go and swarm the enemy base, run back, get reinforcements, do it again. You don't really use a lot of the tools at your advantage in the campaign, mostly because I just think it's too easy. And at some point, it just stops being necessary for you to even try and experiment with some of those things. However, the PvP is an entirely different experience, where the environment will come after you, the computer-controlled enemies will come after you, and then playing against another player is actually quite difficult. And even though we've only been able to experience the 1v1 combat in the game, I can quickly see how 4v4, which is the other mode, would very quickly become something that if you do not have your team organized and if you are not all moving together as a unit, how it could very quickly fall apart for you. So that's something that I appreciate a lot more, but I just wish it was a little more reflected in the campaign of the game. Art style, of course, it's that Minecraft charm, so it's a lot of fun. I think, the story beats that are there are just kind of cute and whatever, and it's definitely meant for your kid to kind of log on, play, sort of get the general feel of what an RTS is kind of supposed to be. But you do get the sense that the game does allow the type of freedom where you can just run around, explore the map at your own pace, at your own leisure, very relaxed, and just sort of enjoy moving throughout the world. And it's only in the PvP where it does get competitive and you do have to make every minute count. So two very different sort of experiences there. I think the campaign is a lot of fun for, you to play with, your kid or, someone who's only played an RTS for the first time and really needs, or is early in video games at all and is still learning where buttons are placed. But in the PvP, that is definitely the more level up experience, and those who are probably more familiar with games and who would consider themselves quote unquote gamers, but maybe they're early in RTS playing, and this would be a good starter RTS for them. Overall, I think the game is fine. I think it's got moments of fun, but throughout my experience, I found it pretty tedious. Through quite a bit of my playtime. But I am excited to play more PvP and to jump into that and to have more experiences in that arena as opposed to the campaign.
For
Phil,
sure.
Where are you at with this?
I'm in a pretty similar boat. I will say starting off, when we were playing a few nights ago, for when we decided to pick up, there was getting into the game, I found myself kind of just running around in the middle distance, scooping up whatever animals is cool. All the different mobs and everything that you can go and assemble on your team is cool, and you can just basically scoop people up out of the wild and send them to attack for you, which is most of what I was doing. And I was just running around separate from you, kind of hitting my head against these enemy bases. And once I kind of got out of that, because I was getting bored doing that. But as soon as I broke out of that and I kind of was more teaming up with you and working alongside you for a common goal, as soon as I had a common, an actual goal I was working towards, I felt a lot different about this game. I was like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, this is fun. I'm having a good time here. And I'd say even more so when we delved into that PvP situation. I won, by the way. I wanted to make that clear. I beat Tavin. I fucking wiped the floor with him. It was a 0% on his base to 100% on my base.
Okay, well you're leaving out some key details, but okay.
Anyway, perfection, perfect victory, flawless. But anyway, that was a really good time. It was a really it was a balancing act, you had not only the other player to worry about, your resources to worry about, but you also have the NPCs. You have your enemies that will just constantly swarm your base from whatever other strongholds they have on the map. And it's your job to try to disable some of their strongholds and get some resources from their buildings and use them for yourself. The resources, that is. You don't get to convert enemy bases or anything. I think that would be kind of cool if there's some kind of you take control of this area, so then that it's some kind of capture system. I think that'd be a neat mechanic for them to do. But I digress. That PvP I think is the most fun. It's the most fun I've had in a PvP RTS since the old Halo Wars days. It's just, I think I didn't realize how much I've been itching for a PvP RTS. As far as tactics go, the most that itch has been scratched for me is Fire Emblem. And I'm hoping to scratch that itch more with Advance Wars. But as far as tactics and getting resources and getting the right troops for the right job, I think that this is a relatively satisfying game. It's not going to be when you at first you have a bad itch on your back and you got a back scratcher. It's not going to take care of the itch all the way. But it's a nice little short fingernail scratch on that bug bite. Anyway, I'm going a long way for a small drink of water here and saying it's good, not great. It's a fun time. Definitely not one that I would recommend playing by yourself.
Yeah.
Especially as far as the campaign goes. And Of course, it's fun with like tactics PvP because you have that communication. Me and Tavin have not had the opportunity of diving into like a cooperative PvP experience where it's like the two of us versus other people, which I'm hoping to get to at least once. We were trying to get Connor in on this too, but he was some kind of baby back bitch and he decided not to play Minecraft Legends. Too busy playing Deep Rock Galactic.
Yeah, right.
That game from I don't know 2015. I don't know when that game came out.
It's more recent than that, but yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, and you know, for those who maybe weren't paying attention or haven't had this on your radar, it starts off pretty generic, and they choose to have a player character as opposed to just more of a omnipotent camera view or a bird eye camera view. So you do find yourself running around the map a lot and trying to hunt down resources and finding resources. And there's limited ways in which you can sort of automate resource gathering. Most of it is you going out on your own and finding it yourself, which I find to be kind of frustrating because it constantly is a worry that I wish like wouldn't be like one. Like I think of my time to like Cult of the Lamb, where like at first it's like, okay, you are doing everything, but eventually you build up the resources to do it sort of give it to your underlings or something. And I wish this game had something like that, where I do think because it being Minecraft, you do have to go out and do the mining yourself a little bit. But I do wish at some point there was a switch I could flip or a building I could make or a resource type mob that I could craft that would allow me to send out and be like, all right, you just go around the map and hunt for this. Go find iron. Go find coal. Excuse me. Because it's really, really frustrating because, all of the maps are randomly generated. And it's really frustrating for me to run around and try and find this one resource that I have. And I've picked it clean from the area that I'm based in. And you just have to like run around and try and find it from there. Are
the PvP maps also like completely randomly generated, or is it like a similar kind of like circular map?
So I think it's all like the topography is the same, but what's on it is different every time, and where bases are placed are different every time.
Gotcha.
And that's what changes and so forth. But I like the shape of the island is always the same.
Right, it's that like roughly circular with like little cracks of like rivers and stuff flowing through it.
Yeah,
and stuff
but
like
I don't know if like mountains change or valleys change. But I do know for certain that like where resources are placed change dramatically.
Okay.
And you can kind of see it. Like it's like, all right, that's a weird place for that rock to be, but okay, it's here.
Right.
But yeah, I really do wish that there was some way to automate it because you're just running around the map like looking for resources constantly. And in a PvP environment, like it really, really makes it really hard. One of the key reasons you beat me in our match is that you just attacked me at a time where I didn't have resources because I was busy doing other shit.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of attacking a different base. And so you just like, all right, this is probably a good time. And it was a great time to do it, which does play into part of the strategy, but like it plays into part of the strategy. And honestly, if I had just built up my army, cause I was capable of attacking you 20 minutes earlier, like if I had done that instead, probably would have made quite a bit of progress myself, or maybe even won myself. And I understand that's part of the tactics and experimentation and playing with the formula of the game, but it's just a little too micromanagey for me, for it also trying to be a very approachable experience to where now they're trying to do both. Yeah, now it's hampering my gameplay experience because it doesn't want me to get down and dirty with all of like the systems and building new buildings and so forth.
Yeah, I definitely get that.
And you had briefly mentioned it in your time, and I hadn't even thought of it until you mentioned it. But yeah, switching up some of the gameplay modes and having different modes to experiment with in
like
which
different objectives,
different objectives I think would go a really, really long way in this game. Like first to build this type of structure, and it's a really high end structure or something would be really cool. First to capture a set number of bases would be really cool. Playing a capture the flag or a domination type thing, what does that look like in this game?
What I think would be really cool is if you do something similar to Halo Wars, where it was like you could play it as like a human or you could play as the Covenant. And this one, you can be like a human or you can be a piglin. And you could have piglin units and stuff like that. I think that would be interesting.
That would be interesting. I mean, I don't have any issues with the variety in the gameplay itself,
Right.
or in the units that you're controlling, because they do let you do things like you do get to take control of the normal Minecraft mobs, the creepers,
Yeah.
the zombies, the skeletons, and even beyond with that, which I do
you can
like
literally-
and appreciate that.
Literally just run around the world, and if you see like a badger, if you see a turtle, a rabbit, you can scoop it up and then send it to attack a person in the game. You know,
Yeah, it's not as good as like crafting a unit, but yeah, you can do
Right.
that. Yeah. And then I do like the balance of what are they called? Not allies, allays, where you have a set number of allays, which are like little spirits that either mine or
They're like
craft
fairies.
for you. Yeah. So you have like you start, I believe, the campaign with 5 and 5. So you have 5 crafting allays and 5 mining allays, and so you just run around, you place down the allays, and the allays do all the mining or the crafting for you. And so you can only do so much at one time. I like that system, and I like how it balances out, and I think it's really smart, and it allows for more growth in
And then
the
in like
RTS sort of
in
perspective.
PvP, you're starting with like 2 or 3.
I think it's 3 and 3. That sounds right to me. Like I like that system, but like I just feel like we can kind of do more with it. And I think that's my biggest critique of the game, is that it starts strong, but they just don't do enough. Like they don't play around with it enough. And for it to want to be such a casual game, like why are there not more fun things to do, more fun modes, more goofy objectives and so forth? Whereas like it really is just, hey, go wipe out enemy bases again and again and again, which does have its charm and it's fun and entertaining. But you know, with it being so limited in objective sets, the limitations of the game also start showing their ugly faces. This game doesn't have a whole lot of Minecrafting in it. It has a decent amount where like you get to pick out exactly where you want your walls to build out, which is nice. You get to build bridges and ramps, which are cool. But I can't fill in holes like in the ground, like not really. Like I can put a bridge down over it, which is nice. But like if there's just a hole in the ground where I want it, or if there's like some like a beginning of a mountain in it and it's getting in the way of where I want to build, like that becomes a problem. Also, like the ramps that you use to get up on top of mountains, they're super janky, but they also limit you on how high you can build them, which like for game balancing reasons, I understand that. But then let me have like there are times in the campaign where it's like, okay, I need to get up there and I'm just short because it's just a little too high. And it's like
there's also the thing where
bro.
some of your units can't really jump that high. So like you might be able to get somewhere, but your units are like stuck at the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah. I've also found that units just get lost all the time. Like when I'm trying to like charge a thing, like I'll end up with some just kind of hanging, you know, stuck on a corner or something. And
Sure.
I think that's a thing of like having them just each individually be units as opposed to like a tank that like, you know, can just kind of clip its way through where it needs to clip through, like you would see in a normal RTS. And it working through individuals. But they give you things in this game that like sound nice. Like you have like, you know, you have to yourself go and collect your mobs and send them to go do a job, which is cool. But you can only collect so many at a time, which is nice for like upgrading opportunities. So it's like, oh, I can only carry 10, right? Or I can only charge with 10 right now, so I need to upgrade so I can charge with 15. Nice. But they give you the option to send units in individually, which I don't understand why we have that function, because there's never a case where I've ever felt the need to do that. I always send everything I have at one thing at one time. And even more so if in your crowd of people you have different types of mobs which specialize in different types of things, like one is good at tearing down buildings, another is good at killing other mobs. I can't choose which one I'm sending forward. It's just one of them goes. And so what's the point of even giving me the ability to send in one? I just don't understand. A lot of these systems, I think, have good intentions, but they're not thought out well enough for me to feel like I can sink hundreds of hours into this game. I'm going to return to this game once to play 1v1 with you, and then again to play a 4v4, and maybe another time after that. And after that, I'm probably gonna put this game down.
Sure. No, I totally agree. Like that is super frustrating where they almost at some points give you too many choices, and then at some points give you far too little.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely hurts this game.
Yeah.
And in terms of like how I think of it, you know?
Yeah, and it's less so of like choices of the variety set that we were talking about before with like different modes or different types of building opportunities and so forth. But it starts becoming you're hampering me from doing what I want to do.
Right.
And now it's like there's no way for me to send my mobs that take down buildings in one direction and my mobs that are good at killing other mobs in another direction. There's no way to cleanly do that. You just have to spawn type A, go and send them, and then spawn type B, and then go and send them. But by the time you do that, type A might already be wiped out. So you're just wasting your time and your resources. And now it's just like, well, then what's the strategy here? Is just to build up a variety and send them all at once. That's really it. And I don't feel like the game rewards creativity, and I don't feel like the game allows me to have an intelligent way to conquer a situation. It really is just build up strong forces, send them at base, win game.
And I think that's what makes me think that, yeah, this is not just because it's like a Minecraft game. This is definitely just for kids. You know, it's a kid focused game. That simple kind of, hey, you can baby, like you said earlier, baby's first RTS. Yeah. Like you're spawning these little golems. You're gonna go send them to attack these. All go attack the pigs. Go knock down their buildings. You got it. You can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there. I don't think
to that like. That is what we're saying is 100% true for campaign. For PvP, it is a little different. There is a little more complexity to it, but it still does lean towards build up army, go attack base, win game. You attacked my base. I had defenses set up. I had mobs still at my base to defend it, but you kind of just brushed right through that. Now, there are things that I now am going to employ the next time we play to sort of delay that or give me more opportunity to counteract your attacks, which I think will have different levels of success to it. But in terms of 1v1, I don't feel like there's too much more that I can do to improve my chances. It's just whoever lucks out gets more materials first and gets to build out an attack first. I really do think
whoever's getting fucked by the piglins less.
Yeah, but I could see how in a 4v4 scenario where one guy's out collecting resources, one guy is building up defenses, one guy is on the attack, and another guy sort of playing middleman and doing whatever needs to be done. I could see how that could add a layer of complexity that would be super engaging and super fun, which is why I really want to play a 4v4 match and have people who understand what they're doing and are gung-ho and trying their best and see how that plays out and the level of fun I have with that. But other than that, I don't know what else this game is going to provide me that I can't get from something else. But that's speaking as, a grown gamer. As I could totally see how a kid would load up campaign and run around and just like collect animals or just mine all the trees in an area or, just run around and attack just himself, not like progressing the attack on the base and knocking buildings down, but just, cutting up piglins and having fun with that. I see how a kid would love this game, but for someone looking for more than just a kid's game, this one doesn't disappoint, but it does limit itself in the amount of fun it can give you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you said it earlier of like, this game's good, it's just not great, and I would recommend it if you're just looking for an appetizer type game, which is something you were sort of alluding to earlier. But if you have something else to play something else. Like, this is not going to...
I don't think this should take priority over something else.
No, absolutely not. And even if you're like, hey, I'm kind of bored of the games I'm playing right now, let me try this out, it might entertain you for a weekend, and then you'll put it down and probably not think about it ever again.
Sure. Sure.
Which is kind of disappointing because the game was presenting really well. Like,
Yeah.
I really thought this game was going to be a little more grand than it is. But it's much more simple than I was hoping for.
I mean, you look back to it had to have been like January, right, when Xbox had that like showcase.
I believe it was a January showcase. Yes.
And me and you saw their like little thing, the little presentation they had for this, and we were like, oh, this looks really fun.
Oop, I broke the thing.
Your stream broke.
There we go.
Yeah, so you and me were hot on it. We were like, oh man, this looks awesome. This looks like a great time. And I mean, it was a great time, but I was thinking it was going to hold our attention longer.
Yeah, I was too, and yeah, I think just sort of the jankiness of it, and just it's not very thorough in its game design is just really, really holding it back.
I think
the idea is good. The idea is really good.
As far as execution, it's just I think the word I'm looking for is shallow. You know.
Yeah.
We're in the kiddie pool. We're in the kiddie pool.
Yeah. Which,
there you go.
Like, was the intention of the developer clearly, but you just a few more steps. Just take a few more steps, and you prolong the life of this game exponentially. You know, to me, where like I could have seen myself really playing this and really getting into it, and it being a gateway to other RTSs. But it's just left me being like, oh, all right, and then you know, I'm gonna put this down, think, you know, cool things about it, but not great things about it, and you know, I don't know if this is a gateway drug to other RTSs.
If I could like put this into perspective, I've obviously, I mean, it's April and I've already played 12 games this year.
You've been working, boy.
Right. If this does end up on my top 10 list of the year, it's probably like number 10.
Yeah.
Can't imagine it being any higher.
Yeah, I don't know if I foresee it being in a top 10.
That's what I'm saying. I don't even know if it's going to end up on my list at all.
Yeah. So, but like, and I'm coming off pretty negative about it, and I think that's just probably because my hopes were a little higher for this game.
Right.
But I do think this game has value. I think it's worth merit, and I think if you have kids, it's definitely worth your time to play it.
Oh, absolutely. Play some co-op with your kids.
Yeah, 100%. It's just missing sort of a pizzazz that I know is in there. The potential is there, but it just doesn't quite reach it.
You're bobbing for apples, like the potential, like you're in the bucket trying to grab the apple, but it keeps slipping away, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, every time where I go, oh, this is cool, this is fun, I'm enjoying this, there's always a sort of a hindrance to that. There's just always a knockdown where I go, well, I would be having a lot more fun if I could do this. Like, I'm enjoying myself here, but I could be enjoying myself a lot more.
We got John in the chat. This is Minecraft Legend.
Yeah.
Legends. It's a RTS Minecraft game.
But yeah, Phil, anything else you want to leave us with here on Minecraft Legends?
No, I don't think I really have anything else. I think that we pretty much summed up everything that I kind of wanted to get into when we were thinking about this review.
Yeah. I'm sure there was more thoughts that I'll think of later, but the main point for me is this game is cool. This game is fun for moments, but it just the tedium and the lack of freedom, I think, really holds it back. And I'm not going to say lack of creativity, but just the inability of the game to take the following steps to sort of give me a little more inspiration to keep playing is just not there. So.
Right. Yeah. It's just lacking that like driving force. It's definitely not one of those games we go to work and we think about, oh man, I could be playing Minecraft Legends right now.
Yeah.
It's definitely not that, you know?
And it had the potential for that. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Don't get me wrong. I was never expecting a 10 out of 10 masterpiece from this game.
Oh, of course not.
No, but
I was thinking maybe an 8. I was hoping for an 8.
I was hoping for, somewhere around there, but I was hoping for sort of that thing that you were talking about where like I would play it, put it down, go and do something else and just be thinking about it. And when I'm not playing this game, it's never even entered my train of thought once. So.
Sure.
good or bad. So I guess I'm just sort of middling on it. But I'm not going to call it a bad game. And I think if you're considering playing it, give it a shot, especially because it's on Game Pass. And, it's not a full-priced game. I believe it's $40 on the PlayStation Store.
It's on the PlayStation Store?
It is, which I thought was weird too. I think Minecraft just gets a cheat and gets to be wherever it wants to be. But yeah, I enjoyed moments of this game, but yeah, I was not like blown away from it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for your review of Minecraft Legends. If you are watching on youtube.com/@2pennygames, we do reviews as much as we can here on the channel, and they go live usually every Sunday. You can catch live streams of us recording our reviews on twitch.tv/2pennygames anytime from 4 p.m. to, what time are we at right now? 7:40. So anytime from 4 to 8, we are streaming, recording all of our podcasts, such as the 2 Penny Gamescast, the Piggy Bank reviews, Game Club, etc. Next week, we will be doing our Game Club review for Portal 2. So make sure you drop in and check out that. And Piggy Banks go live on Saturday. Follow us on Twitter at @2 Penny Games, and on TikTok spelled out 2 Penny Games. And we are also on all mainstream podcast services. Just search the 2 Penny Gamescast and you will find us there. And if you're watching from the 2 Penny Gamescast, thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit the subscribe, like, and share with a friend. And to catch Phil live, twitch.tv/2pennygames on Tuesday at about 2 p.m. Central Time for whatever he's playing this week, probably some Advance Wars or something. And until... What?
I was just saying, we'll see.
We'll see. You gotta tune in to find out. Until next time, have a great time. And Phil, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye.